let's get into this. Sorry I've been away for a while, just haven't really cared, been doing my own stuff, falling to the wayside for some things, but everything still is what it is. I haven't been doing as much trading, things have been kind of wonky, but everything's kind of gone as expected, more or less, with some interesting things. So let's just kind of get into it. Hope you all are doing well. Um, and let's just kind of get into it. Okay. Okay, so we can't really see much here on the daytime. Let's go over the wheat real quick on the month time frame. Let's go over what we were talking about. Let's do this. Double click. Boom. So we're talking about this. We had our boom bounce on the month time frame. We also had the month time frame here and here, right? So boom, boom, and we also had here. This was the month time frame, and the next week start here. Boom. Then we pushed up. This is a little bit sketchy. It wasn't too surprising that stuff pushed up the day that we hit here, and then we pushed back down. Everything's pretty sketch all in all, though, and the economy is really like yikes. We can also look at Apple, the two that I look at the most, and we'll just kind of get into some of the other ones. So a couple big things. We did start the week above, which was pretty nice for what it's worth. But if we do look, we will see Monday we start slightly above. We do push up, which is nice. It did push down quite a bit. They held it here. 1 second. I had a burp. My bad. So we pushed up. This is a little bit sketchiness. We want to see it come back down maybe for a bounce. I still didn't trust any of this stuff. And then boom, we can see where we start right here. A little bit more clear if we just look at it right here. So we start way too high up. We come back down. Usually it's going to test for support. It's what we always assume. We get a bearish starting day here underneath everything. And then really it's just kind of taken from there also as well. We start under 142.65, try to push up, push back down. We start barely above, but everything looks so bad. I do believe Friday, if I remember correctly, I think that was the ECB day. I might be wrong. Maybe Thursday was ECB day. This was what? Hawkish, Powell, and this might have been the European Central Bank day where they increased their rates by 50 basis points or 0.5%. Or, well, I guess technically it's not 0.5, but 50 basis points. So, that is what it is. So we kind of could see from here, and we can kind of see from the VIX now why it was going to push up. Everything looks horrible anyway. I guess another thing to say is we're looking at what, 2018, let's say. I don't know. I really don't care. This doesn't have to be accurate. Let's say steak. I didn't really buy steak in 2018. Let's say steak in 2018 was like what, $7 a pound for, I don't know, not ribeye, but some regular steak. And now we're talking what, 2022. We're talking that steak, that same exact steak is now what, like $11. So let's just look at it this way. Inflation is the increase of something, and everything that they're talking about when it has to do with inflation is essentially like we're talking about the derivative. Inflation we almost never really hit deflationary periods where the price of things goes down more than what it was realistically. Like we might come back down to something, but very rarely are we going to hit something where it's like down then down. So pretty much, long story short, we're talking about like $11 steak as opposed to $7. We're talking about it going up. Even if inflation goes down, essentially what we're talking about is more so the derivative. We're not talking about the actual price, but we're talking about the increase in the price of things. So even as inflation comes down, inflation still exists as a positive number. So let's say, okay, 4 years, this increases by over 50%. Let's just say that. So like 2024, this is still going to be like 1250, even if inflation goes down. That's 2 years. So it's even say 2026, right? So this is the same 4 year time span. We've only gone up like what, 15% or something like that. Still, it's going up in price. It's not coming back. So unless wages are coming back or like going up exponentially or something else, then none of this is really going to change. If we also look at that, you also have to keep in mind that when wages go up, there's more of an incentive for companies to use more automation and all that jazz. So as inflation goes up and the price of things goes up, and the price of labor goes up, it's also going to encourage more automation, which is going to cause more societal issues. Okay, I don't really want to go into that anymore because it's just kind of obvious. Now let's go into some of the other things. Let's look at the Dow Jones. What are we waiting for? What I was saying, we're waiting for the Dow Jones. What do I still have a little drawing of it? Maybe I don't. I guess I got rid of it. But yeah, we're waiting for what? The Dow Jones up here. And we didn't reach up here, so we can pretty much just see right here. We pretty much came almost all the way up to it. I don't care how close it was. I'm not going to look at the specifics, but yeah, we pretty much came back to it and then just pushed back down. So none of this is really too surprising here. I'm pretty sure on the Nasdaq we're 20 million miles away. We're into the week now, which is a little sketchy, but I don't really care. Let's go NDQ. Yeah, we're like 20 million years away from anything. I think on the SPY in the day time frame, it's the same kind of thing I believe that we saw on Apple. Yeah, the same thing on Apple, more or less, where we started way too high. We want to see it come back down to support. And the SPY more or less did the same thing. Started way too high. We want to see it come back down to support, and then we start the next day under. So bearish signals here. Even if this isn't like a short position, this is I don't want to be in it. So I mean, it's really how most of the market's been for a long time. So I guess we'll look at Bitcoin and then we'll just go through stuff. Bitcoin, I guess, looks somewhat nice for what it doesn't look really nice. I don't really want to go through a lot of this stuff because why is there a heart here? Do they have a heart symbol? Is that what this is? Anyway, um, so like I was saying before, nothing really too crazy surprising. Okay, boom, we hit here, we push up, or we break above the trend line. We still need to break above 18K, and even if we did break above here, we still need to really break above here, and really get back above like to 32, 33K to really be able to cement anything substantial that's going to actually continue, not just be something that breaks down. That's my opinion on it. Where we are right now, I think it's somewhat okay in regards to where it is on the day time frame. Looks nice. We broke through it. We pushed up. We failed here. Not really too surprising with everything that happened in the market on Wednesday. Not surprising either. This is probably more indicative of what happened with the market and the Fed. So this is a lot of sketchiness. To me, I wouldn't want to be in here. The second that we started, well, I don't know why this would be a take profit point. I'd like to see something start above. Long story short, I don't know what direction this is going to go, but I don't like where it is just because this is above this trend line, which was shown before. I'm not going to go over again. I'm not a huge fan of where it is, even though if I look at everything here in this area, I would say this looks weaker than it looks stronger. The only thing that looks nice about this is that it actually is above this trend line that we've been above for I mean, the trend line that's existed for like the last half a year or whatever, half year, something like that. Yeah, but besides that, I'm not really a huge fan of it. On the week time frame, we are also above. I'm just not a huge fan of it. So I could see this pushing up. It just it doesn't scream buy to me. And anything that does, if it does come up and then turn around, we're probably gonna then push all the way down. What are we at now? To 14K, somewhere around here. Um, there's a lot of sketchy stuff. I don't really want to go into all of it. So let's go to some other things. I know I mentioned Doge at one point. It didn't break out like I wanted it to. A little sad. At the end of the day, it worked out. Long story short, we're talking about this trend line essentially existing with Doge. We're talking about the 412. Uh, where is it? I don't really want to spend too much time talking about like the 4, I think, and then the 12, if I remember correctly. Yeah, like here. And then we're talking about the coming into the day time frame. So the 4 was like here, I think. The 12 was here. And then we're talking about coming into the day time frame here. So it did push down, like I was saying the other day. If it fails, or the other week, I guess at this point, if it fails, we're going to range here. We can see it's pretty standard what happened. We really just ranged here, came back up, easy exit spot where the entry point was. I mean, even higher, but if I bought into this, I would have just gotten out. Probably I would have gotten out at 10.5 as opposed to holding it. This was pretty sketchy for what it is. I'm going to be honest. I never would have held it above this while it pushed up. Maybe if we started a day back above here and then look for a day that starts back under. But we can just see here, we ranged here and then we failed underneath. So we can see this, boom, boom, boom. And now we're back down to around the 7.6 cent range. Now it's at 7.9 cents. So not a huge fan of it. I don't see why it couldn't push up. To be honest, I could easily see this being a range and something like here with this 375. My biggest concern is falling under this 375, and that brings us into this range pretty easily. And it also comes with the issue of this being here. So if it does fall into here, we could easily break down through here, and I could see this falling underneath this and pushing down to like 3.84 cents in that area. So that's kind of what I could see for that. We'll see what happens. I don't think things look great, but it's a lot of it's just gambling nowadays. So with some of these things, let's see. Is there anything interesting? Oh, we came all the way back up for Home Deep. That's actually surprising. I'm not like okay. If I had to bet my life on this, I would have probably said yeah. If we started the week here, we pushed up. We're probably this is a great take profit spot. Maybe it goes up past it. I would bet my life on this is a great take profit spot, whether this went up or not. But this is pretty interesting that it actually even came up to here. Um, like if I took a position, I don't know, what was it on the day? Did we have like yeah, like somewhere around here? Like for some reason, if I did, or like here, I didn't like really most of the stuff that happened on the in between here. This was like okay. I didn't like it on the first day. The second day was okay. If we see here, we start under. I don't like it. I do like this day, as we can see that we start right above it. It does bring into some questions though, because we do start here and push all the way up here. So it's like, I can kind of see from this perspective. And then from here, it kind of makes sense why it tries to push up. But it looks very forced, is the big thing. But would I have said it would have gotten here? I wouldn't have bet like $10 that from here we would have then pushed up to here. Now, if you asked to here, I'd say maybe. But it's very surprising. Long story short, it's just very surprising that it managed to push through 338 and get all the way up here to 347. I'm super surprised it did that. I don't understand why it did that whatsoever at all. But and that just is the nature of the gambling markets nowadays with how much stuff moves. Why is Credit Suisse $3.08? Holy shit! Wow, kind of crazy to see Credit Suisse all the way down here. Well, okay, it still doesn't look good. 87. We're fighting lows here on Amazon. Week, month. Yeah, so like Amazon still looks bad from a day time frame perspective. Still looks bad from a week time frame perspective. We'll see what happens with some of this stuff. Mara still looks pretty bad. I don't really have any targets. I don't want to go over this too much. Personally, I there's a lot of reasons I don't like Mara right now. I don't want to go into all of them because it's going to take a couple minutes and it's not really important. I don't think Mara is decent. My biggest kind of concern is like Mara coming under here and then pushing under and possibly coming under $3 and pushing even farther down. I could see Mara having a lot like this. So like if this is kind of our range from when I had two lines earlier, this should really be here because this is the day 500. I'm just not a big fan of getting caught in this area. Like, let's just look at it like this, right? If this is, if it like wedges down here, we get a triangle, whatever. I don't care. Whenever it falls into here, if we break under here, that could be a big movement downwards, which I'm not a huge fan of whatsoever at all. Or like buying it in where it is now. If it does come under technically where it is 367, I'd probably say 350. I really wouldn't be a huge fan of picking it up. It doesn't seem like it's a DCA spot, more or less. Nothing really surprising here with DraftKings, as we said multiple times. Um, we can. This is initial second. Okay, so we don't. So it really starts here. We don't see anything here, but what do we see here? What do we see here? What we saw coming into December is failed breakouts. So failed breakout, failed breakout. And really a lot of this at the end of the day was the FOMC stuff, Fed stuff or FOMC stuff. But at the end of the day, from a technical perspective, you could still see that this is like, hey, let's be careful of this failed breakout. And also another thing to notice, just like we mentioned with Apple, just like we mentioned with SPY, probably on, I think those were on Monday, I don't remember, but way too high. So this is like way too high up. We want to see it come back down here for a better position. So it's just from this perspective, essentially what I mean by this is like if I wanted to get into this, I was waiting for it to break out. I want to see it somewhere around here. Like let's not like start all the way up here. It doesn't look good. Um, so we'll see. I don't really like this where it is. We'll see what happens. I mean, maybe we bounce here at $10.31. I'm still not a huge fan. Just really not a huge fan. Robinhood getting shreked. Blah, 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 don't really care. Meta holding up pretty well on Meta. Some of these are pretty old as we can see. Do we have a week time frame? Yeah, these are all pretty old. So this looks like this was the 500. This was the 375. I don't know what this was. Yeah, so this must have been the 4 hour. Okay, I still think Meta looks okay for what it is. I don't really want to go into it too much. I don't think there's anything super decisive. Really, it could push up, but the market didn't look bad. I would say Meta looks pretty decent for what it is. I don't really see a lot of bearishness on Meta, in my opinion, anyway. So a lot of it was up here in this area, and I don't want to go into all of it. It is what it is. But yeah, I mean, it could be bearish. I mean, I'm sorry, it could be bullish. It looks pretty decent, but just with where everything else is, I'm not a huge fan. But it looks better than everything else that I've seen so far. But I knew DraftKings more or less looked bad from what I remember. PayPal probably also as well. We had this same kind of structure in PayPal and in DraftKings. So I do remember this for both of these. And the same thing. This one played really nicely. We came back under and we've just been pushing down, pushing down. So nothing really different from there. One nice kind of thing is we could we push this to the bottom here. Anything dropping maybe to 69, then maybe cupping somewhere around this 68 area could be pretty nice. We'll have to see. I don't know how Lordstown Motors still exists. I think they have cars, or maybe I'm confusing them with Rivian. But they still have cars, maybe or something, and they still have a stock that's publicly traded, so they still exist, which is kind of weird. I just don't really get why. To be honest, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't want to go to Royal Caribbean. I don't see anything too certain. The week looks pretty crappy here. Um, but I don't want to go into it too much because this is just like all over the place. So this looks like a really bad place to start the week, though we did push all the way up and try to beat up here again. We try to get like a new high, so that is a little bit interesting. This looks really nice. This is definitely a place where I would have bought into it at 57.77. If someone asked me like where to buy, and I would have said like here. So it is tragic, essentially, what has also happened for this, um, especially since we didn't even hit this area here. Don't want to go into it too much. Nothing really too crazy. This looks pretty nice. I think a little bit tragic also as well. I think we could have started something here and pushed up really heavily. This looks like another FOMC kind of thing pushing into this. The bullish trade looked like it was set up here for NVIDIA. So that's a little saddening, but what can you do when you start right back under? There's not really a lot. Tragic once again for Tesla. I didn't actually see this on Friday. Super tragic. Not surprised. This is a range. If I was in a short from here, I would have gotten out here. Actually, on this day, well, probably somewhere around here, but this day specifically, I would have gotten out. If I was still in somewhere around the top, I would have gotten out everything in the position here. Long story short, what I kind of mean by that is it is pretty interesting how we didn't come all the way up to here, and just from here we're pushing down. So it will be interesting to see maybe if we are in this 130. I did see where Elon sold like 22 million shares or something like that. So maybe that has something to do with this. Carvana is still up from what it was anyway, like a week ago, which is still pretty interesting. Man, cake has really come down, which really, I mean, honestly, that's not surprising. Natural gas has been all over the place. Not too surprising with like this up here after it pushed up. Still surprising it pushed up as far as it did in a sense. I guess, it's a real thing that people have to use with the cold weather. And I think that's kind of about it. I don't really want to go into too much. Rivian looks like trash. Long story short, everything overall, I mean, at the end, I say this, but everything looks pretty bad. I still don't like a lot of this stuff. The VIX looks like it could easily be set up to keep going up, especially with how much it got sold down. The big key area to look for, I think, is still that 2610
starting a week above 2610 to like 2650, I think we'll probably see another leg up pretty heavily if something like that does happen. Anyway, take care, y'all.